Alright, let's talk about last week and all the things I did. Cheers. Welcome back, everybody, to me doing weekly navel-gazing, the thing where I talk about all the books I read last week, and all the books I plan to read this week, and all the videos I made last week, and all the things I plan to make this week, or something like that. And let's get started and talk about books that I read last week, because I did read some. I did finish Read Plenty by Francis Spufford. I think I mentioned that one last week already. And then I read The Adventures of Amina al-Sirafi by Shannon Chakraborty, and it's a fun book. And then I did read Oliver Cromwell, or The Making of Oliver Cromwell, which is part one of an Oliver Cromwell biography by Ronald Hutton. And then I read The Witch, A History of Fear from Ancient Times to the Present by Ronald Hutton, which is a book about, well, the image of witches and witch persecution and all of that stuff through the ages. Really good book. I learned a lot. Not that I would say I enjoyed it, because, it's still witchcraft stuff, but, And then I read If on a Winter's Night, a Traveller by Italo Calvino, and I did enjoy that one. It's a really, really cool book. I very much enjoyed it. It's very postmodern, it's very metafictional. Highly recommend you read it if that's the kind of stuff you enjoy. So that's books I read last week. What else did I read? I did reread The Pirates by George MacDonald Fraser, because, I wanted to make a video about it, and that means I have to reread it because my brain doesn't work, and if I, don't read something and talk about it immediately afterwards, I forget. So that's what I did. And then I read Tammany Hall. They call Machine Made, Tammany Hall and the Creation of Modern American Politics by Terry Galway, which is a history of Tammany Hall and American politics around from the early 19th century all the way to the mid of the 20th century, and, the whole stuff around that. It's a really good book. I highly recommend it. It looks mostly at the integration, or lack thereof, of immigrant populations in New York, and the services that Tammany Hall provided in a way that a welfare state would provide them if, 19th century America, or modern America for that, in that case, would actually have those kind of things. It's a really good book. Highly recommend it if you haven't read it, and if you are interested in, American politics, 19th century politics, early 20th century politics, the sort of like preliminaries to the New Deal, FDR, all of that stuff. Really good book. Highly recommend it. That's all the stuff I read last week, which is not too little, I guess. What am I planning to read this week, though? Well, I already started reading The Wretched of the Earth by Frantz Fanon, which is a book I've wanted to read in full for a long time. I read excerpts at university, but, never the whole thing. And there's finally an unabridged audiobook, so that's what I will do next. I'm sure that will make me a very happy, positive, optimistic kind of person, but, it's a good book. It's an important book, and, go read it if you haven't yet. That's something I am going to read immediately. Then I want to read The Innkeeper's Song by Peter S. Beagle, which finally got an audiobook as well, so that's going to happen in the next couple of days. And I want to read Fight Like Hell by Kim Kelly, which is a history of American labor struggles. There's reasons why I want to read that beyond just, it being a really important topic, but yeah, it's going to happen. I'm sure there's more stuff that I want to read, but I don't exactly remember what it was. There might be more stuff on, labor stuff, miners' strikes in West Virginia in the 1920s, that kind of stuff, but I'm going to figure that one out whenever I get there. For now, that's the plan is to read Fight Like Hell, read The Wretched of the Earth, and read The Innkeeper's Song. So, after that, let's talk about videos that I made, because I did do that. So, I made a video for Death of the Author by Nadia Okorafor. I put it out on Thursday. I took 2 attempts to make one that I was at least not too unhappy with, and I think it's, under the circumstances, it's the best I could do for that book. It's a really good book. You should definitely read it if you haven't yet. Absolutely brilliant thing, and I'm glad I managed to pack at least some of the things I found interesting about the book into a video, because that book packs a lot of content. Holy shit. Anyway, that's a video I made, and then I made a video on the responsibilities of booktubers when talking about books that have what I would call problematic content, by which I mean racism, sexism, all the other wonderful things that most books have up to a point, just simply because, that's what happens. I made that video. It's doing incredibly well compared to everything else I do, which says a lot about booktube, says a lot about me, I guess, and so forth. And we'll definitely talk about that some more. But, it's out. It's gotten some comments, which is always good. It's gotten some comments which are not as supportive, which, is also expected. That's what you get for having an opinion, I suspect. And that runs the risk that some people will just not even understand a single word of what you say. But that's just like what happens. Anyway, all of that out of the way, I did also do sprints in the morning where I try to write and did all kinds of stuff. And I did a live stream yesterday evening because Matt on Books, who usually does the Sunday pub, did not do that yesterday because he was part of a stream earlier in the day for the Dragonbone chair, which I guess, if you haven't watched it yet, go check that one out. So the evening was free, and I had nothing better to do, so we did that. And for a while, Britton came over from some Okie Dude, and we had a bit of a conversation about all kinds of stuff, American history, books, that kind of stuff, right? I enjoy that. I do very much, in general, enjoy doing live streams. It's a fun time. I do really enjoy that, so that was cool. What do I plan to do this week, you may ask? Well, hopefully you do that. I plan to do some videos. In fact, I plan to do a video for The Pirates by George MacDonald Fraser. It'll have to wait until tomorrow because it's already too dark outside, and as I have mentioned before, I can't swing a saber under my bed, so I have to record those on the outside, on my balcony, and that means, the actual light, the daylight is important. So tomorrow, hopefully, The Pirates by George MacDonald Fraser. And I want to make a video for The Adventures of Amina al-Sirafi by Shannon Chakraborty, which also needs to be recorded outside because, pirates and stuff. I want to record both videos during this week. The reason is I have an appointment with a dentist, or in this case, the kind of, what is it called, jaw surgeon, whatever, like the kind of people that cut open your jaw and pull out the roots of your teeth. That's what I have to do on Friday, and since I have no idea how that will go, and so forth, I figured I'll do the pirate videos before then, because either, I won't be able to talk afterwards anyway, because, it's a piece of surgery, basically, or I will get some sort of provisory kind of thing there and won't have the wonderful, beautiful pirate smile anymore, so I guess we'll have to, I have to speed that part up. I guess we'll know more about it afterwards. Next weekly Navel-Gazing, if I can talk again, I will let you know how all of that went. So those are videos I want to record this week. Will there be other videos? Possibly. I don't know. I still want to talk about The Power Broker by Robert Moses. I still want to talk about Wizard of the Pigeons. There's obviously other books I want to talk about. I do really feel like making some form of video about If on a Winter's Night a Traveler is also a good idea. We'll see what happens in what order and so forth, because, time and all of that. And I will, of course, do the breakfast sprints as long as I can. I'm not sure if I can do one on Friday because of, that appointment, which I think might clash with those mornings sprints. So yeah, that's plans for now when it comes to this. And yeah, let's slowly move into rambly territory then. Because it's like several things that I found interesting. Obviously, the one thing is that, once again, a video that is more like a general kind of thing, discourse kind of video, outdoes all my book reviews by massive amounts, right? It's almost like at 300 views already, which is a lot for my very small channel, compared to like videos about books, individual books that usually get like 100 views if I'm lucky. And yes, those are all really terrible numbers. Don't worry. And the question is usually what to do about that. Like, the temptation is to make more like those kind of general videos, discourse videos, all of that stuff, because clearly that works better. But I also want to talk about books that I find interesting, that I think other people should read, because there's stuff to learn there, even if I'm not always 100% happy with those books. So the question is usually how to go about that, not give in to temptations, because obviously if you make generic videos, if I make generic videos, that comes with added stress, that comes with, more comments, obviously, sometimes hostile comments, angry comments, the question of like what to do about it. Do I respond? Do I ignore it? All of that stuff? And it comes with a temptation to sort of like turn up the level of animosity, right? Because the more outrageous the video, the more the hotter the take, the higher the numbers, and that's certainly something that can descend into drama, into insulting all kinds of other booktubers, starting in personal drama. Because while I personally really enjoy or think that having discussions about books and how we do book stuff is a very good thing, I do not usually use that, or I don't see that as attacking individual booktubers or attacking their personalities. That's not a personal thing. It's just like, for me, that's a matter of how we do things here. It's a matter of discourse about very specific books and other topics. But that's a very fine line, and I know it's easy to cross that, and we all have like different levels of what we find, insulting, when we feel personally hurt and so forth. I get that. And the chances of, engaging in that kind of behavior is obviously dangerous, because chances are something will happen, someone will get hurt. And so I'm always wondering whether to do more of those, more like general videos. If a topic comes up that I get mad about or whatever, if I find something of the sorts, then yes, I do that. Otherwise, I don't. And, once again, this also coincides with the whole thing. I really hope I can get back now, after the dentist thing, to doing videos for going back to that Mormonism video, because I really want to do that large project, because I've worked so hard for that. And as I have decided that right now, I guess looking less disreputable might actually help a serious video about Mormonism in a lot of ways, or help its reception. I am sort of forced to push that ahead, while, feeling like I'm, on the other hand, sort of letting down my impulse to defend the fact that it's about the actual content and not about the looks, and not about, how, all the classist, ableist, and so forth prejudices that come into not accepting a long video or the content of the argument of a video just because the person has like knocked out a tooth and thus looks less reputable. As I said, I'm always struggling with that. For now, I have decided to sort of not do the Mormonism video. This may change once I have like another, a rough idea of how long the whole like tooth situation will go. Because the problem is, of course, while I have these large projects that I can't do, it's very easy for me to slip into other projects and have ideas, and dumb ideas possibly, or good ideas that sort of like prevent me from sticking to any sort of plan. Obviously, that's an ADHD problem up to a point. The good side is there's never a lack of ideas. I always come up with new ideas. The downside is, of course, it's very difficult to ever finish any project. We already see that with the pirate videos, right? That's already taking longer than I thought it would. But, there's external circumstances of that I can't always record the video and so forth. But it's, yeah. And that's how I ended up in my current, or on the brink of my current rabbit hole about labor politics and so forth. And I blame good old Ronald Hutton for that, because in his book The Witch, he coins the term, or defines the term, service magician. And well, obviously that just means someone who provides spells against payment, and those spells being beneficent spells, lifting curses, finding stuff, that kind of stuff, versus witches who use spells to harm people or crops and so forth. It's an academic thing, and it's not anything to do with gender or anything. It's just that if you want to talk about the image of witchcraft as witchcraft, you kind of have to do those kind of, definitions. And service magician just like stuck in my head for a while. I read that on Thursday, I think, and it stuck with me on Friday, and it's still sticking with me. And service magician just sounds like someone working or so forth. And then I had this idea of like a union of service magicians, like the United Service Magicians of America or something like that. And then my brain spun from there to the idea of patronage that is so much part of like political machines in 19th century America, and how that, especially in the cases like Tammany Hall, sort of like ties together with, other, with sometimes organized crime, but definitely also with like labor unions and stuff like that. And I'm like, I guess I have something there that I can use for maybe a short story, because my writing ideas about the historical fiction have been sort of like historical fantasy, whatever you want to call it, right, have slowed down the last couple of weeks for all kinds of reasons, right? The world being the world, me being distracted by all kinds of stuff. It's bad. And then I found out that next week there will be a new history of the German Peasants' War, and Now I want to read that book before I continue writing, because maybe it'll, give me good ideas, new ideas, and so forth. Suddenly I'm thinking about writing a short story about a union of service magicians of America being on strike in the 1920s, and tying that into, Tammany Hall progressive politics on the one hand, possibly the labor struggles around places like the Battle for Blair Mountain and things like that on the other side, and how all of that fits together. And it's one of those things that that happened to me a lot, right? I read all over the place. I read non-fiction, I read fiction, I read, fantasy, science fiction, literary fiction, historical fiction, all kinds of stuff. I read academic non-fiction texts from all over the place, from, history, psychology, all of that stuff. And I just enjoy making connections and picking bits and pieces and tying them together in weird or interesting ways. Because it allows me to nerd out about all kinds of crap, right? And that's like who I am. And so playing with these ideas right now is obviously a lot of fun, right? And I can totally dive into that for hours and hours and hours. Questions like if something comes of it beyond me just, intellectually masturbating about all my knowledge about 19th century American politics, or if something more, tangible comes out of that. And that's certainly a question that I haven't finally answered yet, but until then, I obviously found reasons to read the book on Tammany Hall, and going to read, The Fight Like Hell about the unions and so forth by Kim Kelly, which is, I'm really looking forward to that one as well. So we'll see where all of that goes for now. But I think it kind of explains why I enjoy authors like Tim Powers and authors like Neil Stephenson so much, because they have a similar approach to a lot of what they do by picking bits and pieces from history and so forth, and coming up with interesting ideas of tying those loose ends together. I don't know if that's a good thing for me or not. It certainly also explains why I enjoy books like Umberto Eco's, the stuff that Umberto Eco writes, because it does similar things. I'm someone who likes to think in references and reference stuff a lot, and I think that can be incredibly obnoxious to others, but as long as I'm, not being paid for writing stories, I can just be obnoxious to myself, and I think that's fine. So that's kind of where all of this weird stuff came from over the last week, why I started reading all these books. Obviously, it ties back to stuff like The Power Broker, Robert Moses being obviously tied to Tammany Hall sometimes and opposing Tammany Hall from time to time, and there's stuff going on there. And the interesting bit is, of course, that while this is 19th century and early 20th century American politics, it throws a shadow all the way to our present, and the way that organizations like Tammany Hall, for example, helped integrate and care for immigrants arriving in, mostly being Irish, then later Jewish and Italian, Eastern European and Italian immigrants to New York, how to integrate them into society, find them jobs. Yes, a lot of that was obviously done through corruption, like find them jobs, help them sort of like become part of New York in a way. That is certainly something that arguably doesn't happen anymore when you break up certain communities. Once again, this ties to stuff that Robert Moses did and that you learn when you read The Power Broker, right? It ties all of these things together, and then you see that if that doesn't happen anymore, you have other issues with immigrants that then, lead to, give fascists and Nazis and all the right-wing scum that is currently in power an open door to, stir up the anti-immigrant sentiments in ways that are obviously incredibly harmful and dangerous. So reading these kind of books, I think, does help in that regard as well. But also, if it allows me to write a story about the union of service magicians, then, well, that'll also happen. Yeah, and that's roughly where I am at the moment. I don't know exactly. Clearly, this is a year full of weird politics, and it's not going to get any better anytime soon. I feel that will obviously come through in my videos. It obviously comes through when I do like live streams anyway, and the question is whether I am going to do more live streams. I just do really enjoy hanging out with you guys and chat and being able to, rant at you, but also react immediately to comments in chat and interact and talk about things in that way. So it's certainly something I enjoy, the questions, whether I will do more live streams in the future, whether I should do that, whether I should just do that on YouTube, whether I should use Twitch for that, just to separate it, because I know that there's a lot of you out there who just want me to talk about books and get really annoyed when I talk about German electoral politics or anything else, right? So maybe separating those things out is a good idea. I don't know. I'm very vague about all of that. It's just something that will happen in the next couple of weeks, I guess. We'll find out how German elections go in 3 weeks, and we'll find out how much of a face I have left after my dentist appointment on Friday. And until then, I guess I'll just keeping on mostly. So yeah. That's roughly where we are right now. I thank all of you for watching any of the things I did last week, for commenting, writing, being in chat, all of that stuff. I really, really, really do appreciate it. If there's something you want to tell me, there's comments down there. If you have anything else to mention, you can always reach out to me on, Discord or whatever, and so forth. Beyond that, I don't know. What have you read last week? What are you reading this week? Are you doing cool things? I sure hope so. And so, I don't know, let me know about all of the things that you want to tell me. And beyond that, I don't know, like, subscribe, share, comment, do all the wonderful things. Join the Patreon if you feel like it. I don't know, join the channel if you feel like it. None of this is necessary. Just have a good time and try not to, get, destroyed by politics and the world right now. It's really bad, and if reading, talking, and so forth helps us, then let's do that. All right, that's enough. Thanks, everyone, and cheers.